Hello and welcome to another video review, and I know a lot of you are clicking this video and wondering it's not a review of God of War Ragnarok. Rest assured, I am still working on God of War Ragnarok. I plan to have that review out probably within the next 2 weeks or so. I did get a little sidetracked between that game and some other games that have come out. Also, I'm taking my time with God of War Ragnarok because it feels like it needs to be one of those games. With that being said, I want to talk to you all today about what I think is the best game that has come out in 2022 that nobody is talking about, nobody is playing. Hoping to bring light to it that maybe you'll check it out, maybe you'll play it, because it is one of my favorite games of 2022. It's going to be high on my Game of the Year list. It is a game that I didn't even know about really until my buddy Dan on Podcast 572 brought it to my attention. And if he had never done that, I would have written this game off as just another arcade compilation, because if I'm being honest, that's what I thought this game was. It is totally not that. So today we are talking about Arcade Paradise, one of the best games that has come out in 2022. So what is Arcade Paradise then? Arcade Paradise is kind of a management sim, but it has a story to it, more than something like House Flipper or Power Wash Simulator, any one of those. This is very much a story-driven game that has management sim qualities to it. The whole gist of the game is you are, I believe, a college dropout, or in between. I can't remember. You're either a college dropout or you're in between high school and college. Your dad wants you to get more of a sense of the real world, so your dad runs and operates a chain of laundromats, and he basically makes you the manager of this one while he's out on vacation. And as you start, there's a lot to the laundromat part of this game, but you discover in the back there is an old arcade machine that people are coming in, they're going in the back. It's a very dingy, dark area, and they're playing the arcade game. And so you start to expand that. You start to put a couple more machines in there, and as you're doing that, you go with your numbers and your report and everything to your dad, and you say, "Hey, look, I can exponentially grow this business with this arcade." And your dad, I'll say straight up, your dad in this game is a fucking jackass. This dude is so full of himself, so full of his laundromat business. It's fucking absurd. He's a real piece of shit. Like, the part is played very well in this game. He basically says, no, we're not doing that. This is a laundromat. You need to learn business. You need to learn life. And between you and your sister, who went through the same thing, and now I want to say is like studying abroad or something, you decide to expand anyways. You kind of say, you know what? Fuck you, Dad. I'm going to do this. And that's exactly what you do. The game is set in 1993. It's a very nostalgic driven game. There's all sorts of arcade machines that you can play. The music, one of the highlights of this game is the music, because it's basically tracks that are riffs on 90s songs and 90s hits. And so it's like you hear the song being played, but it's not quite that song if you listen closely, even though that's what they want you to think. So you have a Rage Against the Machine song that is literally about running this arcade. There's a Nine Inch Nails sounding song. There's a song that sounds like the Counting Crows. Just every single song sounds like something you would have heard on the radio in the 90s. It's fantastic. One of my favorite elements of the game. And also, like, all of your conversations, you have phone conversations with your dad. Your character never speaks, but your dad speaks to you through like phone messages that he leaves, or you use your computer and use an AOL Instant Messenger type program, which is another great throwback to the 90s. It's a fantastic game. It's incredibly addicting, just maintaining this business. And there's always that carrot at the end of the stick for like, okay, maybe I'll just play one more day and I'll maintain this and earn some more money so I can buy the next arcade cabinet. After you buy a certain amount of arcade cabinets, then you can upgrade another portion of this business until the end goal is you want to get rid of everything to do with the laundromat and just make it an arcade. And without spoiling it, I will say at some point in the game, there is a setback. And that adds to the story of the game. You do get around that setback, and you do finally get to the point of actually running this as a full arcade, which is awesome. My biggest gripe with the game would be making money in the game is incredibly difficult until you get to a certain point in the game, which just prolongs it. And I'm going to be honest, after a certain point, you get really tired of doing the laundry part of it, which a lot of the laundry part of this game is literally washing and drying laundry. There's a lot of that in this game. And while it does contribute to your overall, finances for the business, it's very tedious and can become annoying. But there's nothing that's ever not fun in this game. There's a fun mini game where the toilet can get clogged, and it almost turns into like an RPG where the toilet has hit points and you have to go in and attack it. And everything about this game is just, it's so fantastic. And I literally would not be standing here talking about this game if my buddy Dan didn't mention it or talk about it on podcast 572. I would have never played this game. It's one hell of a video game. It is out on everything, so you can get it on Xbox, PlayStation. I believe it's even on Nintendo Switch. I bought a physical copy of it for the PS5, and then it happened to be on sale digitally for the Xbox, which at this point, that's where I probably would prefer to play the game. So I ended up rebuying it digitally. I'm never going to open that physical copy, and I just ran through the game on the Xbox. It's a lengthy one. I'll say this, I got God of War, and I almost didn't want to start it because I was so addicted to Arcade Paradise. As I told you guys a couple weeks ago, I was planning to originally review the game Scorn. I actually stopped playing Scorn because I was addicted to this game. That's how good Arcade Paradise is. There's so many elements to it, and if you're a kid of the 90s, if you're somebody who ever went to arcades, you're going to fall in love with this game. And don't do what I did. Don't look at the cover of the game and go, oh, it's just an arcade compilation game. It's totally not that. With all of that being said, you can play every arcade game that is in here. They're all knockoffs of arcade games that you've already played, or they're mashups. There's like the woodcutter game. Everybody knows what that is. I think the most interesting mashup game, there's like a GTA mixed with Pac-Man mashup called Racer Chaser, and I think that game's really, really cool. There's stuff like that. Like you'll look at some of these arcade games and they're cool mashups, and then there's ones that are just straight up knockoffs. My least favorite is the knockoff of Missile Command. It's just not very original, and it's just not very good. So, but there's a plethora of those games in here. The only other game I'd say is not pleasant to play. There is a Dance Dance Revolution game that's in here. That's just not fun to play with a controller, if I'm being honest. There's no point. Like, if you want to play DDR, you need to play DDR. So, and as someone who spent an entire summer of high school playing DDR with friends, like on actual metal platforms, because I had a friend that went nuts and bought those, it's just not the same playing with a controller. Arcade Paradise, it's so good. It's so fantastic. It's such a wholesome game. The last thing I want to point out about the game that I think is interesting to highlight is if you start playing different, the game encourages you to play the arcade games and the arcade cabinets, because that's how you earn more money in the game. That's what gets customers that come in excited. If you start setting high scores on these, and you'll get into competitions with people through email. And there was one person, I got into a competition with the woodcutting game. This girl that was going away to college, and kind of spending her last summer, and she was hanging out at the arcade. And you have what I would call one of the deepest conversations in any game I played in 2022 through email with this person, and it's incredible. It's so well written. I encourage anybody to go out and check this game out. Absolutely. I think it goes for $20 digitally, so but it might be on sale right now. I have no idea. Arcade Paradise, though, A- is what I'm going to give this game for a score. Highly, highly recommend you check it out. One of the best games I have played in 2022. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time.